dilemma has to be authentic, it has to be a real dilemma, but it has to be relevant to the pupils, and it has to be structured at the right level. They need to feel that they are informed, so that will involve the teacher in terms of the preparation of the material that they produce, that they are allowed to express their opinion, but the important key role here for the teacher is that that opinion then has to be transformed by the use of evidence. It has to be backed up with evidence, and that's where the key issue is, of linking the science to that discussion around the dilemma, and that's the crucial role for the teacher in that situation. Discussions don't happen without structure and preparation though. Pupils will need to have that structure, that framework. This could be a series of prompt questions, for example, that the teacher could draw on, that they could use. It could be a series of key cards of information that the pupils are presented with. And I think this needs to be balanced between the traditional role of leading the lesson and the more enlightened role, perhaps, of facilitating effective group discussion within the lesson. Teachers are clearly worried and concerned about having a depth of subject knowledge to cope with the challenges and the questions that pupils may bring up when the discussion around the dilemma arises in the classroom. This is an understandable area of concern, but I think it's important to keep in mind that the teacher has multiple roles within the classroom, and is not just there to impart knowledge. I think what I'm trying to say is that no teacher could anticipate all the questions that the pupils will bring up and all the avenues that they may go down. What's important is that the teacher has a structure to cope, and techniques and strategies to cope with guiding the pupils in achieving the final outcome of the lesson, which they've planned and intended. There were some good ideas to help teachers, additional materials, collaboration on the portal, where teachers may upload their own additional further materials or links to websites that give additional subject knowledge. Key fact sheets could be a good idea, just to highlight the important science concepts that might be behind one of the topics. I'd like you to think very carefully about this issue of subject knowledge. Is that the key issue, or is it more about how you will structure the classroom and allow the pupils to follow their ideas, and then to have the confidence to bring them back together and guide them towards the outcomes of the lesson and the intended objectives of the lesson. So it's this, if you like, our own dilemma between, or a dichotomy between, achieving or being driven by the subject knowledge that we want to enable the pupils to acquire, as opposed to the role that we will have in the classroom of facilitating effective and engaging discussion around the dilemma. It's an interesting and a stimulating opportunity for teachers and pupils in the classroom.
What are some of the key open probing questions that you've used that have worked really well to help students deepen their thinking and probe and take their ideas further? So let's have a little think and reflect. Have we got some good open probing questions that people would like to share, and we can build our questioning repertoire up? I've produced a bookmark which has got question stems on it. So I use Bloom's taxonomy, and so I've got things like, which is the best, which would you can you verify this, can you evaluate, what errors can you see, what criticisms can you come up with, could you predict, how would you improve, can you suggest an alternative? So I have this with me all the time to plan for those more difficult, challenging, probing questions. So any of those, if you want to share them in the chat area, would be really helpful for us all to see in terms of the outcomes that they're getting the students to produce. Because I think, it builds up that repertoire. So Amanda's saying that her students sometimes often lack concise answers and ramble. They are the students who can verbally perfectly answer the question. So part of the success criteria might be that they make their points succinctly. That might be something that they can peer review themselves against to actually develop those skills in it. So that's a great point, Amanda. Absolutely, and that links very much to what we're saying. And Gemma's saying that she's developing thinking guides that act as scaffolds to try and help her students with that. So Gemma's talked about getting the students to use mark schemes, getting the students to answer exam questions. We've talked about the students can write written reports.
So thank you everybody, and see you in the next one.
Thanks, Ali. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.